So, this movie really exists, huh? So before I had seen this movie, I had never bothered to watch Kung Fu Panda 3, I just never got around to it. So to prepare for this movie, I watched 1, 2, and 3 in order over the course of 3 days. So after doing all that, and watching Kung Fu Panda 4, I can comfortably say this movie falls short in a lot of ways. So Kung Fu Panda 4 definitely exists. It's odd because I know the DreamWorks CEO once said that they had 6 movies planned for the franchise, and I love it when they plan ahead films. It's great. But Part 3 felt like it had a finality to it. So if you plan on returning back to the franchise, you better have some damn good ideas. So after the great film that was The Last Wish with Puss in Boots, I was optimistic. I thought, oh man, there's gonna be more DreamWorks magic, because Puss in Boots was the 6th movie in the Shrek franchise, and it was awesome. How often can you say that? So, okay, Kung Fu Panda 4, it's gotta be good. Let's hope for a John Wick 4. Man, this movie was not it though, at all. So let's start with what's missing. The Furious Five were great supporting characters in the other films, and played well with Poe, and served as a benchmark for him. From not wanting him to be around, to looking at him as a leader, and then eventually as a terrible teacher. And then to go from that to not even being around, what, could DreamWorks not afford them? I'll go into more detail later, but this movie also feels like it was missing out on a great villain. All the other villains up until this point have felt huge. Tai Lung was intimidating, Lord Shin was conniving, and Kai felt like he had a personal connection to Oogway. The Chameleon lacks all the weight, and just feels like she's evil for evil's sake. As for the parts it has, Poe is a highlight, but it's a very dim bar. Jack Black can be depended on to be funny, and there's a lot of jokes, but it often feels like we're retreading old ground, with Poe having already found his inner peace in the 3rd film. That was one of the main points of that movie, with Chi and whatnot. I like the idea of him having to continue with his progress, but I think a better idea might have been to have had him take on an apprentice rather than straight up handing off the reins to be the Dragon Warrior. Awkwafina is fine as Zen. Some people don't like the attitude of the fox, but I don't mind it at all. I like the idea of a young rebel, and she does share some parallels with Poe back in the 1st film, being the annoying student he doesn't really want to have around. It breaks all conventional norms. Also, real quick side note, how many of y'all saw the betrayal coming? Because I did, and Nikki did, but I don't know if that's because we see too many movies, or because it wasn't obviously telegraphed, because in my theater, I heard a lot of shock, oh, but I'm not sure if those were the adults or the kids. So, did y'all see the betrayal coming? Let me know down below. Greatly appreciate that. The Chameleon is easily the worst villain the series has had so far, which is a shame because I feel like she could have been a great final boss for Poe in the future. A villain that can actually use and transform into other Kung Fu users? That's awesome. But by the time they try to start building her up as a villain in the 3rd act, it already feels like it's too late. I also want to talk about the disrespect to my boy, Tai Lung. The dude is a legit beast, but he somehow gets bested and is regulated to an anti-cheerleader. Even at the end, when he calls Poe the Dragon Warrior, it felt so unearned. I hated it. There's good action all the way through, but it's a Kung Fu movie. It had better have some good action. It's fast, but I don't necessarily mean the action. This movie runs at a breakneck pace, and I feel like it could have been better if it had slowed down to let the emotional moments really take hold. But then again, there weren't that many emotional moments to begin with. This movie is underwhelming, and I believe a former AEW champion, MJF, can sum it up best for me. Mid! This movie felt like DreamWorks phoned it in, and that's unfortunate because I feel like there were a lot of elements here, strong elements, that if properly done, could have given us a great story and set us up for a new trilogy, setting up a big bad for Poe to face down the line, but also more character development of him becoming a teacher, having an apprentice, and eventually, maybe at the very end of the trilogy, handing off the role of Dragon Warrior to Zen. And then we get a new trilogy with Kung Fu Fox, maybe. You never know, that could have worked. But no. Instead, we are left with a movie that feels like more like The Godfather 3 than Godfather 2. And, kids. This movie felt more like a Rocky from Paw Patrol than Chase from Paw Patrol. Yeah, I think that we're going to keep that reference. But yeah, there you go. What do you think? Go and let us know down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll catch you all next time. We'll see everybody.